Hi, this is Donna. Welcome to DD Paper Crafts, and in today's video I'm going to be making this fun project which consists of a treat box under the cactus at the top, and then the lid lifts off completely to have the gift box element in the plant pot. This box was inspired by Paper Craft Society box number 58, which is Joanna Davies' Time for Tea designs. It was full of cactus images and dies, and this is the box that came to mind. The box is easiest if you have hexagon dies. However, I'm going to show you all the way through the process how to make it without hexagon dies, even though I have them in my stash. So let me show you how I put this fun box together. We're going to start with the plant pot, and you'll need 2 pieces of cardstock which are 7.5 by 4 inches, and along the 7.5 inch side score at 2.5, 5 and 7.5. Rotate, and on the short side score at half and 1.5. Fold over the long 1/2 inch glue tab. Place the piece back in the scoreboard with the 1/2 inch tab on the left hand side. We're now going to make a pencil mark or a notch mark 1/4 inch either side of the long vertical score lines. So we're starting at 3/4 inch, 2 3/4 inch, 3 1/4, 5 1/4, 5 3/4, and 7 3/4 inch. And you want to do that on both pieces. Remove your piece from the scoreboard. Take your ruler and stylus. We're going to score diagonally down to the 1.5 inch score line like so. Move along to the next notch. Line up your ruler and stylus, and we're going to score from the notch down to the 1.5 inch score line diagonally. So it's the bottom left hand corner of that rectangle. So we're going to create a diagonal on the left and the right hand edge of each rectangular panel. Move along to the next notch and score down to join up the diagonals. And you want to do that on each of the panels. Fold and burnish along the remaining horizontals and verticals. Remove your pencil marks if you've used a pencil. We've got our tab on the right hand side. We're going to work from left to right, and we've got our 1/2 inch long tab facing us, and we're going to cut along the first, second and third score lines down or up to the 1.5 inch score line, like so. So repeat that on the remaining score lines. I'm then going to cut within the 1/2 inch tab up to the start of the diagonal, like so. And I'm going to do that all the way along. So I've got short cuts within the 1/2 inch which run to the top of the diagonal, and then I've got a long cut on each of the vertical score lines. Rotate your piece. My 1/2 inch tab is at the other end, and I'm going to remove the first square. Move along to the next shortcut, and I'm going to cut from the end of the shortcut along the diagonal that I've scored. So I'm creating this funnel shape on the right hand side. Rotate and remove the next small square on the left hand side of the central panel. Move along to the next short cut line and cut along the diagonal like so. Remove the next small square Move along to the last small square and cut away the final diagonal. Rotate and cut a wedge into the end 1/2 inch glue tabs. So our piece, which you'll obviously do twice, will look like this. We've got score lines and glue tabs on the left hand side of each vertical, and we've cut away the right hand side of each panel. Fold and burnish your diagonal score lines, and you want to take time to burnish these as crisply as possible, making sure your diagonals meet and that you're getting a nice crisp point at the end. This just creates a neater finish on the base of the plant pot. Now you can at this stage add your two pieces together if you so wish, so you're going to work on 6 panels. I'm going to work on each of my pieces independently and then glue them together. I'm going to add glue to the triangular tabs and try and get your glue right up to the top of the point. Pull over the next panel and we're going to adhere these two together. Move along to the next glue tab, add your glue and bring one panel over the top of another. Just fold your tabs over just to make life easy for yourself. You'll do that on both pieces. I'm going to add glue to the long glue tab and the triangle and join the two pieces together. I'm adding glue to the glue tab, adding glue to the triangle, and I'm going to join up the pot. So this is our box base. If you've got hexagon dies and you're working on the same size as me, you want a hexagon die where each size is 2 inches long. If you don't have dies, put your hexagon into shape and cut yourself a circle which is 3 3/4 in diameter. This one's just over, but that's fine. I'm going to add glue to the ends of the glue tabs just to secure the tabs down. Put your hexagon into its shape. So I do have hexagon dies, but I'm going to follow the process. Add my construction glue, add my circle on the top, make sure my circle's over all the points, let that tack for a minute and then just go in and burnish down the tabs. And once that's dry, I will go in with my scissors or my craft knife and I can cut the base right up to the edge of the plant pot, like so. And I can do that all the way round. If you want to add an addition into the base to strengthen the base, I'm going to put my plant pot on a piece of cardstock and I'm going to draw around the outside edge of the plant pot. And I'm then going to trim that with my trimmer and I'm going to cut just inside the pencil lines, which will just take into account that that's going to sit inside the pot, like so. So there's our box base. Because I wanted the lid of the box to look like a soil effect, therefore inside the box base, so the lid's going to sit just below the top rim of the box, I need to create a lip or a shelf which is going to sit inside the pot to stop the lid from falling into the box. My shelf is 3/4 of an inch deep, but you can obviously make it however deep you so choose. It's just there to create the rim. I've cut 2 strips which are 7.5 inches long and I'm going to score at 2.5 and 5 on both pieces. I'm going to just lay my pot down and I'm going to make a pencil mark 3/4 of an inch in from the top edge of the pot on all 6 sides. And this is just going to give me a mark so I can see where my rim is going to be glued. Fold and burnish the score lines on the strips. And I'm going to add these in as 2 separate pieces. I don't need to join them together. Before I add my glue, I'm just going to lay one of the strips in and double check that these actually do fit on the inside. And I can see that what I actually need to do is trim about a 1/16 off of the ends of the 2 outside panels of the strip. So I'm going to cut those down I can see those fit in nicely. I'm going to add the glue and add this strip in. I'm using the pencil lines to help me line up the strip inside the box. And now I'm going to double check the second strip and add that in. And I can obviously use my pencil marks and make sure that the ends of this strip line up with the ends of the strip which are already in place. For the lid element, if you've got hexagon dies, the dies will measure 2.5 inches. I do have a hexagon die, but I'm going to do it this way. I'm just going to mark a number 1 and a number 2 on 2 of the panels so I can make sure when I make my lid I'm then getting it the right way on the base, just in case my hexagon is not quite a hexagon. So I'm going to hold that in place and draw around. Do try not to press the sides of the box in with the pencil as you move around, because that obviously will change the shape of the lid. And obviously bear in mind you're going to need to trim the hexagon down slightly because it needs to fit inside the box, and at the moment we're working on the outside edge. I'm just going to put my number 1 and my number 2 in, and I'm going to just straighten up my sides with my ruler to start with. So that's my hexagon squared off, and I'm now going to cut along the pencil lines with my trimmer. And I just show you these methods because obviously not everyone has hexagon dies and you shouldn't be restricted by what you can make. I know that I've cut this using the outside edges. I don't need it to be perfect, but I obviously do need it to fit. So what I'm going to do is I cut a 1/16 of an inch off of each of the sides of the hexagon. Once I've done that, I'm going to make the lip, which is going to run on the inside of the box and create the tabs to attach the lid. I've got 2 pieces of cardstock which are 8 inches by 1 inches, and we want to score at every 1/16 of an inch under 2.5 inches. So that's the length of each of the sides. Take a piece of scrap card from the same cardstock you're going to make the lid from and butt it in against the top and the left-hand side of your scoreboard, and then butt your strip up against that piece of cardstock. Remove the cardstock and you'll see you've got a gap here which will be the 1/16 of an inch I need. We're going to score at 2.5, 5 and 7.5. And when we move this strip back, you will see that or you should find that your score lines have moved level with a tooth sticking down rather than one of the notches that goes up into the scoreboard. Then along the 1 inch side, score at 1/2 inch. Fold and burnish your strip, and with the 1/2 inch glue tab on the right hand side, cut up each of the score lines up to the long horizontal. So we're going to split this piece into sections like so. Remove the bottom square and shape the end glue tab. Join the 2 strips together. Make sure you've got your cut edges both pointing upwards. And you want to concentrate on the score line being level rather than the bottom edge of the piece. I'm going to add glue to the other end and join up the tab. So we've now got our lip. So I've slotted my strip into the inside just to check that it does fit. You may use different cardstock from the lid to the base. So you may actually find that for your rim, which runs around the inside of the pot for the shelf, you want that 2 layers of cardstock thick rather than the one that I've used. Now I've got this section into shape, I want to keep it into shape. Obviously, if you've got a hexagon die, you can use that. I want to keep this rim in the position that I've now got it in because I know it fits the box. So I'm going to use 2 strips of card, which I'm going to use to secure this into shape. So these strips are 1/2 inch wide and they're just under 4 inches long, and I'm going to secure them from one side to the other like so. So I'm going to add glue to either end of the two strips, and I'm just going to create this, which is going to create a brace for the rim, which will hopefully keep it in the shape I need. So once that's secure, I'm going to lift that out. I'm going to mark my number 1 and my number 2, place the rim on the cardstock, and I'm going to draw around that. So if I'm going to mark the piece 1 and 2, and then I'm going to cut it out, and it should fit on the top of the rim. I might need to trim with my craft knife, but overall this is a very good fit. So I'm quite happy with that. It might not be the perfect hexagon, but at least I'm working with two imperfect hexagons, which are the same amount of imperfectness. So that's one way to proceed if you don't have hexagon dies, but obviously it's easier if you do have them. I'm going to add some glue to the ends of the tabs where I can. And if you plan to add another piece in to cover the tabs on the inside of the lid, you can use that as a template for your second piece. I'm going to add construction glue to the top of the rim and then add my hexagon on the top. So this now fits in like so, and that is sitting on the top of the rim. So we're now going to make the cactus element, which is going to sit on the top. I'm going to create a simple tube. I've got a circle which is 2.5 inches in diameter, which is going to sit on the lid like so. And I've got a piece of cardstock which is 8.5 by 4 inches. Along the short edge we want to score at 1/2 inch and fold and burnish. Now this will give me a 3.5 inch high cactus. Obviously you can make your cactus whichever height you want. To make the tube, I'm going to cut a series of teeth into the 1/2 inch glue tab, add a curve, and I'm now going to adhere the tube onto the base. You decide whether you want your teeth on the inside or the outside of the base. I'm going to add my glue to the teeth and glue it to the base. I didn't score a specific score line along the long edge because I just want to allow myself the wiggle room without a score line showing when I join the tube together. This is a 270 GSM card, so it's slightly more difficult to manipulate, but it's what I had in the colour that I wanted. And then when I get to the other end, I'm going to lift up the teeth that are already on the base, slot these teeth underneath and overlap one with the other, and then add glue to the end of the tube section. So that's our tube. To create the cactus, I had a strip of paper and I created a ring around the outside of the tube. I've then used strips of A4 which I've cut in half, and these are 3/4 of an inch wide, and I think I've got a total of 8 strips of A4. I cut two 3-inch circles and I adhered one end of the strip to the outside of the ring for the bottom, and then they come up and they're adhered to the underside of the first circle, and then I've added another circle to the inside, and as I've glued the two circles on the inside and outside, I've pushed down on the top to give me this curved look at the top. I've added DSP to the outside of the pot planter, and I've used some of the cactus stamps which were in the kit. I've added the tube to the top of my lid, which I've covered in DSP, and I've added a piece of craft card onto the top of the lid before I added it on, which I just used some distress oxides to try and get a soil look. And I've then added some different colour pearls on the top, which I thought created the shingle gravel look, which to my mind you get around cactus. So there's our main gift box. Our lid sits in the top like so, and then my cactus lid for the second treat box fits over the top. And I think this is absolutely adorable. No, it doesn't resemble a cactus exactly, but it has got the idea of a cactus, yes. And I love how this one has turned out, and it's been a really nice project to put together. I think it would also make a lovely welcome to your new home gift box, or a get well soon box for maybe for someone who's in hospital where you can't take flowers in. But overall, it's a lovely looking box and it's made me smile during the construction process from beginning to end. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel. And until next time, thanks for watching.